The apprentice showed the way and then the master followed. Rachin Ravindra and Kane Williamson both smashing hundreds, and then we saw fireworks by Daryl Mitchell and Glenn Phillips, which has helped New Zealand reach 362 in their 50 overs. Massive total put on by New Zealand on this Lahore pitch. But is it going to be enough considering this is a properly flat track? Like Murali Karthik had said, it's as flat as...
my head. No, it's not. It looks as barren as my head. My head is not flat. Maybe as flat as this center table we have.
DK 362, is this achievable or is this going to be game on?
It's game on. I think South Africa, one of their strengths with their middle order is the way they play spin. If they can deal with the spinners well, Bracewell and Santner, they have a very good chance to compete in this game. It looks big, but South Africa is a team that bats deep and bats powerfully as well. So I would expect them to be in the chase for as long as possible.
Well, there's absolutely nothing in the pitch, Kartik, because we thought at least initially there'll be something. You feel for the bowlers in a day like this, because what can you do? There's absolutely no assistance whatsoever.
Yeah, 100%. And this is why I've been saying that when people say advantage India, India could have been here and getting more runs. There is nothing there. Anyone who's played in Pakistan, anyone who's played in Lahore, you'll say that it's a bowler's nightmare. It's a graveyard for the bowlers. And once again, there were certain areas where you could hit, but they're not machines. Bowlers will try a few things. The slower ones did work on the odd occasion, but then once the batter got used to it, even they were going for a few boundaries because the batter then sets himself up. But coming back to your point, nothing at all there. Nothing at all. Initially, they started nicely. In a very typical South African way, bowling the lengths, as DK had suggested, Marco Jansen, bowling slightly further up. But every time there was a missed length or a missed line, it's that kind of a wicket. The margin for error is pretty minimal.
Well, the way New Zealand started, they went from 4th gear, 5th gear, 6th gear. They just went on accelerating because the last 10 overs, their run rate was 11, which is just phenomenal, DK.
Quite the way you need to construct a 50 over if it's a flat wicket, 56 in the first 10, which is actually pretty less. Generally, it'll be high, then it kind of drops, but they've just gone gradually up it purely because wickets haven't fallen. Up until the 30th over, only one wicket has fallen, and post that, they have pressed the accelerator and scored excess of 180 in the last 20. It tells you that they've paced it well. They lost a couple of wickets in a jiffy where Kane Williamson and Latham got out, and then you thought, okay, are they going to stutter a bit? Will they just manage to get 350? But thanks to another Glenn Phillips cameo, they've gotten to 362.
Well, when they bat so deep, we know how just scary it can be for the bowlers. But to start from Rachin Ravindra, he started off on the perfect note. He's this young bat who's just so good looking when he gets going. His 5th ton in an ICC tournament, 108 in 101. Those 13 fours, very, very impressive knock.
Yeah, absolutely. I think he's taken to international cricket very nicely. Just the way he bats. There's something easy about watching him, as you said, free-flowing bat. Plants his front foot. It was interesting. You said master and the apprentice. The apprentice comes on the front foot. The master is always on the back foot, playing shots as late as possible. And it's a nightmare for the bowlers when two batters of two contrasting styles are batting. But just the way he batted, just the way he set the tempo up, some of the shots that he played, coming on top, riding the ball on the bounce and hitting it through covers, and also flat batting it. It's just outstanding to watch. It's a good wicket, but the thing is, good wickets sometimes also produces great stroke play, and that's what we got from Rachin Ravindra.
When you talk about great stroke play, he really went and kept getting those runs at mid-on because he likes playing that shot, and we see that today in the wagon wheel. 33 runs there that he's got. Clearly a very favourite shot of Rachin Ravindra.
50% of his runs have come with that on-drive / flick. It tells you that it's a strong area for him. You can also see he stands tall on his front foot and punches balls that's much further away from him, which is also a strength where he plays through the covers. But this flick shot, he's a bit of Indian origin. That wristy flick is always there in his blood, I guess. And you can see it coming through nicely. Even against high pace, he's able to play consistently on the back foot. His batting is very suited to batting on flat pitches because he gets so much on the front foot. And when the ball comes on nicely to the bat, he's able to play such shots. The challenge will be when the ball does a bit. But for today, it's Lahore. He's gone there. He's opened the innings against a quality attack, which has Rabada, Ngidi, Mulder, Jansen, and batted like an absolute genius who has plenty of time and strokes, because when Kane Williamson started, he actually was the one who was the aggressor. He was taking chances. Keshav Maharaj, on the bounce, he stepped out thrice to hit 3 boundaries, which tells you that he doesn't commit while stepping out. He steps out, watches the ball, and if it is there to be hit, he goes for it. Otherwise, he has the ability to take a single, which is a good skill to have.
Where did, okay, I understand Rachin Ravindra has got Indian wrists. Where did Steve Smith and Kane Williamson get Indian?
No, because you've been saying it.
They've got the Caucasians with Asian wrists.
Yes. And we saw that again today from Kane Williamson, because he, like you said, he started more aggressively, which usually Kane Williamson doesn't. But then again, he paced it very well. And we saw just the way both Rachin and Kane went about things today. Perfect ODI cricket.
Genius at work. Seriously, as DK was mentioning in the pre-show, I just love watching Kane Williamson. He's just so easy. Everything he does, there's a bit of languidity to him. And again, that's why I said, Rachin Ravindra coming onto the front foot as a bowler, you're saying the man at the other end is like literally sticking close to the stumps and plays as late as possible. I don't know how they watch it. Sometimes how late can you watch the ball onto your bat and then allow it to go? It's just amazing. And also, sometimes the way he deconstructs a spinner,
yes,
it's beautiful. You see him running inside out, and then you think as a bowler, oh, I'll try and force him this way, and he hits you here. So he's got shots everywhere. Just amazing to watch him bat, and just the way he goes about it. He is not somebody whom you can, again, tie down. Again, him, Steve Smith, they've got this art of getting singles. As a spinner, that's my worst nightmare. You hit me for a 4 or a 6, I know it's out of desperation. But every ball in a one-day game, if you're constantly going ting, 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 and then I'm bound to, in trying to overcompensate, you end up giving a boundary ball to such batters.
Yes.
Mohammad Yusuf was another such batter who was tough to bowl to. So as a spinner, you are always in a bit of a conundrum what to do to batters like this, and also to seamers. He's just got a plan for every bowler. So beautiful to watch them both bat.
And both of them, they were going above run a ball. So at no point did it feel like one of them was going slower or not. But both of them going at run a ball in that partnership.
Rachin started it off, and then Kane, as expected, caught up with him. And the beauty was Rachin was actually bludgeoning the ball, whereas Kane Williamson was soft, silky smooth, using the gaps, using the angles. And the odd occasion, like Murali Karthik said, sometimes he stepped out and hit it over mid-wicket as well. He was hard to bowl to because of how much he was moving in the crease. You can't bowl 2 of the same balls because you almost gets into a position to knock that for a boundary. So you have to be at pace with him to figure out what he's trying to do. He starts off in a very, very conventional manner where he just waits for the ball, just dabs it to third man for a single, slightly short to sweep a cover. Once he realizes, okay, this pitch we need to get slightly more, then he ups the tempo, uses the crease beautifully, played so many lap sweeps.
Yes.
I mean, for a man who never had that shot, to have learned it that late in his career and use it courageously, kudos to him. You keep learning, they say, and he's a great example of that.
And is that credit to T20 cricket?
He was forced to learn that shot because he didn't have the power that a lot of others possess. So when you don't have that, you need to figure out ways to get boundaries. And this was a very good option, using the pace of the ball. And he does it on the offside using the cut and the flick. And this becomes a very good option as well. Once he's learned this, he's used this in ODI cricket as well.
And you also notice, as DK mentioned, when you don't have the power, sometimes when people hit, when they're not natural 6 hitters, their elevation of the ball is always low. They're not somebody who hit those high balls, which moon balls, guys like Yuvraj and Chris Gayle hit towering 6s. The guys who are big hitters, the ones who don't hit, you'll always see them hit flatter ones. And Kane Williamson, every time he tries to hit a big shot, it's always flat through the air. And sometimes then you start figuring out what are the other things, other ways and means how you can get those boundaries and keep that acceleration going. It's just beautiful to watch. Just the way he moves through gears, you don't even know how he's moved.
Well, 10 boundaries today and those 2 6s. So usually with Kane Williamson, you don't realize when he's accelerating because he just does it so effortlessly, DK. You don't see any kind of panic on him. We spoke about it in the pre-match show as well, how saintly and sagely he is, and that shows in his batting as well.
Very calm. And when he comes to the crease, he has a method which is pretty much deja vu of what he's done over and over again. He comes to the crease, assesses first what this pitch is, what the bowler is trying to do, what should I do? And then once he feels, okay, the pitch is nice, I think it's a game where we need a tall score, then he starts going through the gears, as he says. And when he decides to do that, he realizes he's not going to keep hitting 6s down the ground, like probably a Rachin Ravindra would, or a Daryl Mitchell, or a Glenn Phillips. He needs to hit gaps, always looking to go over covers. He look over mid-wicket, uses the pace nicely. So you need to enjoy the art of what he's trying to do. And there is a method to the way he goes about it. That's what has given him consistency. That's what young boys and girls watching him bat should try and learn.
You know, when you talk about that method, I want to understand from his wagon wheel today, because it was a little Kane Williamson-like, because the runs he got at mid-wicket and a third man. So you said, you know, he plays much straighter. So today we saw him playing a little differently, if I can say.
If you do see 33 runs coming behind, which tells you that he's used the pace of the ball, and the 11 that you see, definitely the lap sweep. But it's always big strings or square of the wicket. He's not somebody who hit down the ground as much. He hit square of the wicket. Today, he hit over mid-wicket 34 and over covers, as you can see. These two areas he did pepper a bit. And these are the angles that people with lesser power use. You see a Pollard or a Russell, they'll be more straight down the V because they like backing themselves to hit down the ground. Kane Williamson is using angles, moving around in the crease, getting his body into positions where he can use those gaps. That he's done beautifully yet again today. That 11 that you see normally wouldn't exist, but that's there because he's played those lap sweeps today.
You know, Karthik, when he's talk about these two centurions today, brilliant knocks, but we have to also talk about the supporting cast that we saw with New Zealand, because he just keeps coming back time and again, and Glenn Phillips gets those quick runs all the time, and we saw Daryl Mitchell getting those important runs as well. So the supporting cast is always spot on.
Yeah, and they've all played a massive role in the store which the New Zealand have put together. Look, that's one of the reasons why Daryl Mitchell is treated so highly. It's because of his all-round skills. Again, he's a proper team man. You go see the way he operates, see the way he plays. It's all for the team, nothing for himself. And so is the case with Glenn Phillips. I cannot think of a man whose pace across the turf will be the same without pads and with pads. I think he just runs so quickly. It's just amazing. He was running, even whether there is heat or no heat, for somebody to keep pumping himself back and forth, and he runs for you, runs for the others. It's just amazing, his fitness. And again, he's got all the strength and that kind of mentality where you're not thinking your score, you're only thinking team score. And that's one of the reasons why their support cast is always so good. They're always playing for one another. They're playing for the team cause. And once again, as DK said, I don't know whether it's par, but definitely they've done all the right things that could have been asked of them.
Well, Glenn Phillips has been talking about how he wants to be the best in the world. He said that he had this chat with Rob Walter, but I mean, he's proving it time and again. But he spoke about how he backs his skill. He says that he knows he's got the technique and he just wants to back his skill, and that's what he does.
I would argue with him whether he says he's got a technique, because his technique is probably suited to playing in the middle overs in one-day cricket. Doesn't move his feet much, stays stable, but has a very still head. And what he's got, which is his biggest strength, is hand speed. The way he gets under a ball to hit areas, he hits basic areas. He doesn't look to sweep, scoop, all that. He hits down the ground. He hits over mid-wicket. And if you bowl short, he'll probably go over covers. That's it. But he can pepper that because he gets into such a strong position with a good base and his head is so still. And as I said, even if the bowler misses by very little, his hand speed is good enough to get it over the boundary. That is a very special skill to have. You see Nicholas Pooran, you see Glenn Phillips, they all fall under one category where they are blessed with that ability to get through a ball quick. Now, that hand speed is what makes him so attractive, because a lot of players will get into good positions, but in case the ball is not there, their hands won't be good enough to get them out of a shot. With Glenn Phillips, if he just holds that second, his hands are so quick that he can actually make a half-decent ball look very bad. And that helps him clear, and his fast-twitch fibers in his body helps him do that consistently. Even if he's tired, the areas that he accesses, brilliant, and he's a strong man. You know, as we can see, he's a really strong guy. So the power is always going to be there. It's about getting into positions correctly, and that he's done nicely. But most importantly, he's understood in the recent past the art of batting in the middle in this ODI. He doesn't panic. You can see he just takes a few balls and then starts playing his shots nicely.
Well, my mind had already gone to Klaasen when I spoke about Rob Walter, because they're so similar in their styles. But just coming back on Glenn Phillips, and with Glenn Phillips, we associate just the fielding and how brilliant he is. Do you think South Africa was just not up to the mark today with the fielding?
Yes, you can say that. By their high standards, they were slightly patchy. But look, if you're thinking of the catch, if you're going to attribute the catch of Kane Williamson, which was a fine edge, to Heinrich Klaasen, I don't think it was a catch at all. The reason why I say that is the ball was flying. He's a 6'3", 6'4". He flung himself to the right and he barely got his fingertips. Vian Mulder put on a catch?
At the deep square leg.
Yeah, deep square leg. But yeah, according to their high standards, they were slightly patchy. Is it nerves? I don't know.
We'll have a look at South Africa's bowling card, although it's not a card that any bowler would want to look at. But when you play on a flat track like this, I guess this is what you get. But DK, what do they take out of this bowling card?
Just the fact that nobody went for a plenty. Everybody bowled decently, barring, you can be hard on Jansen where he's given back-to-back boundaries that easily. That is the only thing, if at all you want to hold on to something and say, you need to work on this area, 70 is acceptable. I think 350 was par here. New Zealand have probably got 12, 15 above par, which is not too bad. So 70 is the going thing, then you would say Maharaj is bowled decently. But I wouldn't nitpick on anybody and say they bowled poorly. They tried bowling short at the start. They tried their slow ones at the end. The left arm spinner tried various angles. He bowled over, he bowled around. He got an edge he was unlucky when it just went past the keeper. So overall, an attack which didn't try, you can obviously fault them at not trying to do that. But today, I think they tried. It was a pitch which was flat, an outfield that was quick, and when wickets don't fall, eventually you will go for runs, and that happened in the back end, 111 runs. Same can happen in New Zealand if South Africa don't lose wickets. So I definitely wouldn't say it was a poor bowling performance. I'd say it was a decent. It wasn't great, definitely, but it was a decent bowling performance. One where you don't want to look into it too much and dissect what the bowlers did.
But Rabada, if you have to talk about him, he's the one with that soul maiden there. And the figures don't do justice to how well he bowled today, because that's how unfair the cricket game can be.
Yeah, absolutely. Just taking on from what DK said, that's exactly what you feel. Sometimes you're not harsh on the bowling lineup or the bowlers, because you can bowl a certain length on a certain track, and after that, if the flatness of the wicket just completely supersedes it or overcompensates your effort, then you can't do too much. You think of Keshav Maharaj. Keshav Maharaj, the figures will say 65 runs, but I thought he bowled beautifully. Some of the times when the batters, especially Rachin Ravindra, came down at him, he deceived them with flight. He got a little bit of turn, tried different things. But sometimes lightning fast outfield. It's like as if you cross the fielder and you say Tata bye-bye, the ball's gone for 4. So you can't be harsh on the bowlers. It's a pretty good wicket.
In fact, I felt the standout bowler was Ngidi. I thought he started nicely with the new ball. Didn't give away. At 7 overs, he was around the 33 or somewhere there. In the back end, he got a bit of a tap. But that's, as I said, that could happen if you don't lose wickets. I thought he was the best bowler. Rabada was brilliant, no doubt. But Rabada also went for a bit at the death. But Ngidi bowled the tougher overs. He bowled almost 3 on the trot at the back end, which is always hard work. So I would say he was the best bowler. Maharaj, unlucky, to be fair. So overall, I think it was a decent effort. But still, it's a total which is gettable. It's still about 15 above par. And add to the fact there is that huge tag, ICC Champions Trophy semi-final. That is the big one.
But Karthik, as a spinner, do you think they should have backed the spinners a little more today? Because they, like you said, were bowling very well. Markram, of course, didn't, he could have bowled much more than what he did.
Yes, part of me felt that. But the thing is, again, sometimes you want to give it back to your main bowlers to rest the initiative. I actually felt maybe somebody like Maharaj, I think they brought him on to bowl in the 16th over. Maybe 12th or 13th is what I felt. They were thinking there is Rachin Ravindra, will he take him down? But that is something which he could have tried, maybe 2-3 overs before he was brought on. Aiden Markram, look, he had to do a part. I think they just made up for Vian Mulder's overs. They just bowled him 4. And when you look at that bowling lineup, he's got the best economy. But the thing is, in trying to do that, if you give the 1 extra over or 2 extra overs, and if he gets a tap, then you look silly. So maybe that's where they stop. They say that's his quota. That's where the threshold is. We are stopping there.
DK, anything at all that Bavuma could have done differently, or you think he tried all his cards?
He pretty much tried everything. If at all anything, can Markram have bowled 1 extra? But that's a big risk because Rachin was getting close to his 100. Kane Williamson in the previous over had hit him for a 6 and a 4. Then it becomes a big risk when you have other bowlers who can probably come and bowl a couple of overs and then give it back, post which 2 right-handers came in, Mitchell and obviously Glenn Phillips. So could he have rotated bowlers better? When I think about it, could he have bowled Vian Mulder a little bit later and brought the spinner on early? Small things like these, but that's hindsight. We are discussing about things that we feel maybe could have been done, and There is no guarantee with what I'm saying because I can't be very sure purely because the pitch is so flat. It's very hard to say you give the ball to him, he'll do a job for you. It's not that kind of pitch.
But Karthik, as a bowler, what do you do when you're just getting hit around the park all across? Is there anything different you try to do? Is there something like, get on a bowler who's a part-timer we're not used to seeing? What else can a captain do?
I'll tell you what you want to do. When you're getting hit, you don't want the captain to look at you then. No, on a serious note, look, you try. Sometimes when you're getting hit a lot, then your mind goes into a tizzy. You're wondering what is happening, and it happens to the best. You talk about Aylstein, you talk about McGrath, everybody won. When you're getting constant tap, then you don't know what to do. Then you just give up. Sometimes you want the nightmare to end. But things like this, it's not as if they've gone for plenty, but they're consistently going for a few. There's one over which goes for a few. You bowl a better over, then the next time you come again, it goes for a few. You only can look at your game plan. Can you do anything on the move? Can you do anything on the go? But if you have exhausted everything and if you're still going for a few, then you just give up and say, it's not my day.
Well,
But as I said,
yes.
You don't want the captain to look at you when you're where am I? I'm hiding somewhere.
From one captain, I want to go to another very astute captain who called his day yesterday. Steven Smith retired from ODI cricket yesterday. And of course, I guess Australia saw it coming because it's been some time, but he's just been such a legend for Australia, DK. How does it feel, when someone like Steve Smith calls it?
You think of Steven Smith, the first thing that will come to your mind is the 2015 semi-final. That 100 he got against India was one of his best hundreds purely because of the timing of it. India was playing good cricket, but he came in at the fall of an early wicket and he just was unstoppable on that day. Played spin so nicely. Early on in his academy days, they always looked at him as a batter who could bowl, even though he was bowling good leg spin then. And even then, I remember Abhinav Mukund, my friend, was at the academy with him at that stage, and he said there's a serious cricketer who has a very different technique, but he's able to access areas very differently to a lot of other batsmen I've seen. And he came in, was a leg spinner who could bowl, and then his career slowly panned into this batting great that he has become. But when you think of Steven Smith, you'll associate him more with Test cricket. But if you look at his numbers closely, he's been a fantastic ODI cricketer as well. He has played valuable knocks, been part of World Cup wins, and he's such a pivotal player even in this format. That average says a lot. And you can see, it's not the quantum of runs, but the way he's got it and the games that he has got it, and that matters a lot. But in his time as a captain, what set him apart was how he was slightly ahead of the game. He would set field. I remember playing against Rajasthan Royals. We were going at a good rate, and he just brought the deep mid wicket up, gave that bait to the batsman, and soon after a batsman tried to hit and it went up. And I was thinking, wow, that is a very clever move to do in between a T20. That tells you how he is able to throw baits to get that wicket, and he was always very, very tactically sound, and that came through in his time as a captain. Even today, Pat Cummins leans a lot on him as a leader. A lot of the times, those are two guys discussing what the next move could be. And that tells you a guy like Pat Cummins knows his strengths. It's obviously bowling and obviously handling the players and tactics, but he knows Steven Smith is clever enough to say the right thing at the right time, and he banks on him to get that. Well done on what's been a truly amazing career in ODI cricket. We're going to still see him in T20s and Test cricket. I feel there's a new lease of life for him as a captain in franchise cricket. He won it with Washington Freedom under Ricky Ponting. He's going to be the captain of Welsh Fire in the 100 as well. They've already announced it. So there's good things around happening for him, and that's why I think he stepped back from ODI cricket, knowing in the next couple of years the team that Australia wants to prepare, he doesn't see himself in it. He'd rather ply his trade playing Test cricket and a lot of franchisee T20 cricket.
Well, that's what he said. He said that he wants Australia to start prepping for the 27 World Cup, and he felt it's the best time to step down. But that void is going to be a massive void to fill, Kartik.
Yeah, 100%. You're talking about somebody who's got a wealth of experience. The number of runs he has scored for Australia from the time he's come in. And again, look, interesting. I remember seeing him for the first time with Pune Warriors. 2012 is the time when he came into our team. And he was a guy who was seen as a finisher sort of a thing. He was outstanding in the field, brilliant hands. And he was somebody who was pretty good in T20 in accelerating. And he was not somebody who played up top. He was always in the middle or the lower middle order. And then he bowled a lot of leg spin. That is something which he did a lot. And then, as DK said, for him to turn himself around, and he's always got his idiosyncrasies and fidgety, as if ants in his pants sort of a thing. But as a bowler, he's just a nightmare to bowl because of the way he plays and the way he accesses and some of the. It's not conventional. You cannot say that he's from any coaching manual. He's got his own way of thinking. He's got his own feel. When you see him stand also, both his legs are inward. Normally batters don't stand like that, but he stands inward. And all the things that he does, very different, unique to him, but that is something which he has stood by, which has worked for him. And absolutely, even, was it last year or year before when Australia came, they looked a different side under him. I think the test match which they won, it was Steve Smith standing in for Pat Cummins, if I'm not mistaken. Was it Indore? Yes, possibly Indore. And just the way he captained, the way he handled the spinners, a rookie spinner, he was just a superb thing to watch. And look, he's always been a very special player, a very good guy as well. And yeah, good luck to him for the rest of his career.
You know, DK, he spoke about how he was always very unconventional. If you could just dissect that for me a little more, because I was always very intrigued by Steve Smith, the batter, because he almost looked so fidgety and then he just used to come back straight in line and play the ball. So something which I never understood, because he was technically not what you see maybe in cricket textbooks.
So he basically modeled himself on using his hands to the best of his ability. For him, the two key aspects was hands and head. His head, generally when they speak about footwork, the leg will go first and the head will follow. But in his case, he almost gets into a wide base and a trigger movement where he sets himself up and his head followed the ball and his hands came through however it was required. What it did do was, one of the biggest areas that he was vulnerable in was the ball coming back in. So when he has done this initial movement and he hardly moved after that, you'd almost need to wait for the ball to come to you because you're not going to move any further. You are widely, your legs are spread wide and you can't move beyond that. He'll wait for the ball to come, and depending on where the line is, he would get his head to the ball and then use his hands to get through the ball. And as the ball came closer to him, he was very strong on the leg side. That's why anything even on off and middle, he could find most parts of the ground. But the beauty is, because his hands were so inward, a lot of batters wouldn't be able to access the offside. They have to go really around to do that. But the greatness of Steven Smith is that he could almost play a cut shot, a square drive, everything using the same grip, which is what made him really special. He was strong on the leg side, but by no means was he any weaker on the offside. He could still access areas that people with a similar grip just couldn't. His wrists were so supple and he's still able to get around the ball, and that's what made him really special.
Well, he was a special bat and also a very special captain. 64 matches as Australia's captain and 32 wins there. And what better way to sign off than that masterclass that he put up in the match the other day. Well done, Steve Smith. You will definitely be missed. We come back to what happened today. Well, New Zealand have gone and created some havoc there in Lahore. 362 runs in their 50 overs. South Africa have their hands full in this chase. We come back straight into something that we were very, very far away from, gentlemen.
I was the closest.
Well,
True.
you were...
The closest. I was the closest amongst the lot.
That's true.
You were the closest, but that was also still very, very far away.
All thanks to Glenn Phillips.
It was Glenn Phillips. We knew he'll come and do it. But the other day, those records are broken, the 352 that they chased down. Today, new records will have to be broken if they have to get this target. DK, why don't you go first?
I'll go first today. It'll be 75 in the power play.
Yeah, I'm going 61.
I'm going 79. 75, 79 and 61. That's what it is. We'll keep our fingers crossed and hope that there's a winner here, but we'll also keep our fingers crossed and hope that we have a cracker of a match. We will be back at the 15 over point with all the updates at the Cricbuzz Combox, so do join us there. Thank you so much for watching.